Welcome to Brain Vision.
Hey everyone, today we'll be going through problem number 34 from chapter 11 of the textbook, dealing with monopoly and antitrust policy. The question is, do you think it is possible for government to outlaw everything that businesses could do wrong? So to answer this question, logically speaking, it's basically saying, do you think it's possible for government to control every single aspect of businesses? Things like insider trading, collusion, even the illegal things like those. Do you think it's really possible for the government to oversee that and control it and then outlaw it if it's illegal? Well, no. A lot of sketchy stuff does happen even without government noticing it. So that's your response to the question. And then it says, if so, blah, 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 but we didn't answer yes. And then it says, if not, how can regulation stay ahead of rogue businesses that push the limits of the system until it breaks? So that's basically saying, how can regulation from the government, or how can the government stay ahead of illegal businesses and corporations that are pushing their buttons? So one of the things that comes to mind logically is that the government can present harsher consequences to the businesses that are rogue, that are not following rules, that are doing illegal things like insider trading and collusion. So harsher consequences. The harshest one would be that the business altogether would have to shut down, but in most cases, something minute, it could receive a harsher punishment. Harsher consequences. Obviously, I named the most extreme one, shutting down the business, but charging a greater substantial fine than they currently have for that company or for that industry that is doing illegal activity and is being rogue. That's an option. And then there's tons of theories about how regulation could be improved. One of the things is that government, and by the way, I'm using the government because that's the regulator of the economy. Government regulation is what you often hear. They can decrease their own costs, especially in information, the way that information travels through the government. There's a lot of money spent on that. So, right, especially in info. Obviously, with less money spent, it gives the government more options in how they go about regulating businesses. Maybe they have more personnel on that regulation. In their information sector, though, they're spending quite a lot of money. It's something known as information asymmetries. Some of you may know that, some of you may not, but logically you can also think, well, if the government has more money, they can regulate better. And then maybe a third and last thing is they encourage competition. Now, this may sound a little retrograde, like why would you want to encourage competition? Wouldn't that just cause rogue businesses to go even more rogue? Well, studies have shown that actually encouraging competition, could actually prevent the rogue businesses from doing something bad because there's more competitors and they have to kind of obey by a certain ground rule. And if not, they'll be looked at more deeply by the government because the government will know, all right, something's going wrong with one of those firms if they are doing abnormally well. So fostering healthy levels of competition. And along with that, providing for economically efficient price structures. That's another way. Competition. And then increase the price structures. Or rather, efficiency with price structures. I mean, obviously, you can just say greater efficiency. Governments can have greater efficiency, as I mentioned in the second point, through their information, the way it travels. I'm going to abbreviate price with the capital P, and then I'm going to write structures. So those are just a few ways in regulation theory that in answering the second question about if not, how can regulation stay ahead of rogue businesses that push the limits? These are some ways. Harsher consequences. We discussed the threat of shutting down the firms altogether, or those rogue businesses altogether, or charging more severe fines to them if they do make a mistake. Well, it's not a mistake, obviously, if they do break the law. Decreasing their own costs, which gives them more money to expand and have more personnel on their regulation, more strict regulation, and then greater competition, greater efficiency with price structures. Those are other ways. But the big idea is that obviously, no. In response to the main question, it is not possible for government to outlaw every single thing that businesses could do wrong. They just don't have that capacity. But these are a few ways that they can get better at it. So there you have it. If you guys enjoyed my video explanation of this problem, please hit the like button next to it. I hope you all have a nice day, and thank you for watching.